Reading with your kids.
Hola, niho, konnichiwa, assalamu alaikum, shalom, mahaba, moni mili wanji, namaste, jumbo, bienvenidos. Hi, my name is Jedley, and this is the Reading with Your Kids podcast. We are coming to you from the beautiful neighborhood of Reedville in the southwest corner of Boston, Massachusetts. We are so delighted and so very honored that you would join us in our mission to help families grow closer through reading. Please be sure to tell all of your family and friends about the show, and please be sure to subscribe to the show in the iHeartRadio app, on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, Audible, Good Pods, Podcast Addict, Stitcher Radio, Ghana, Himalaya, wherever you find your podcast. Our guest today is Steph Winkler. She is the driving force behind SimplicityHappens.com. Before we invite Steph into the studio to find out what we can find on her website, we want to let you know what you can find on our website, readingwithyourkids.com. If you're a parent, you can click the Parents Click Here button at the top of the page to find our blog, to visit our Certified Great Read Wall of Fame, to find out how we can come to your community with a great literacy fair and bring some magic to your community. If you are an author, please be sure to check the Authors Click Here button at the top of the page to find out how you can be a guest here on the podcast, to find out how you can submit your book to our Certified Great Read panel, and to find out how we can celebrate your book with the world through our monthly promotion program. Celebrating your book with commercials on the podcast, messages to our 100,000 plus social media followers, displaying your book in our network of digital pedestrian billboards that you can find all over this beautiful nation, and also display your book at whatever live event we are taking part in a given month. You can also sign up for our free newsletter. And we would love it if you could connect with us on social media, facebook.com/readingwithyourkids, at Reading With Your Kids on Instagram, at Reading With Your Kids on TikTok, and at Jedley Magic on Twitter. Join us right now from St. Louis in Missouri, a city I will be visiting in the not-too-distant future. Our guest is here today. She is a driving force behind a great website called SimplicityHappens.com. Please welcome to the show, Steph Winkler. Hey, Steph, how are you?
I'm doing great, Jedley. How are you doing?
I'm wonderful. I'm really excited to speak to you about Simplicity Happens because there's some neat stuff going on there, some great resources for parents, especially parents with kids who are struggling with speech. Am I right about that?
Yeah, so really it's great for parents with little ones, ages 1 through 6 plus, but also since I am a speech and language therapist, a lot of my resources are great for kiddos with speech and language delays. And so there's a lot of helpful resources out there for parents that they can download and print and enjoy with their little ones at home.
I have to, and I've mentioned this before in the podcast, give credit to speech and language therapists. I had an incredible speech impediment when I was a kid. I could barely get a sentence out. Every once in a while, it rears its ugly head here on the podcast. My kids used to love. I have an especially hard time with the letter F when I'm tired, and words that start with F. So my kids, when I would come home from a long trip at being out on the road, and I would come home, and I would definitely want to read to them right away, but they would always bring out Fox and Socks because they knew I couldn't get through it. And it took me a while to understand that they were kind of being diabolical and doing that on purpose. But it's kind of fun to kind of get through that. So I have to my speech therapist was Mr. Wallanoose, and he really helped me. And the interesting thing was he had an incredible stutter. Even as an adult, even as a speech therapist, he had this really bad stutter, but somehow he helped me get over mine and get over all the other speech difficulties that I had.
Oh my gosh. Well, thank you for sharing your experience. And it's awesome that you remember him and he was a great part of your life. And yeah, speech and language therapists are just amazing people. You know, we really just love helping and want to be part of, you know, helping children and adults with all of their speech and language and just helping them, live their best life. So, that's what we're here to do. And that's why I love the profession myself.
Hey, since I have you here, I might be asking you questions that don't have an answer.
That's
but I'm really curious about speech. Is this really? I think it's kind of not completely. No, we're still learning about how we're able to speak. I've met a recording artist who is an incredible recording artist, a fantastic singer, and he can't get a sentence out when he's speaking. You would never know that he has any kind of speech issues when he is singing, but when you sit down, and I had a chance to have dinner with him, he has a very difficult time just having a conversation with stuttering. What's that about? Why is it that you can sing but you can't speak?
I know it is interesting, and I don't know if I have the answer for that. However, I have in the past had students that we would sing things out, and it would really kind of just help them and kind of help with their thought process and whatnot. So I remember some strategies sometimes working with students that really appreciated that, because they did, they were kind of, with stuttering too, you're overcoming just the ability to manage sometimes, right? Because with stuttering, sometimes it is something that lasts, for your entire life. And so, and sometimes not, but in those cases where it does last a lifetime, you are basically figuring out management strategies. And you're also, I feel like it's also like that mental thing where it's like, I need to be okay with stuttering, and so whenever I help students, I'm not only helping them with strategies, but helping them realize, hey, this is okay.
Yeah.
This is perfectly fine. And we're going to do what we can to kind of help you through it and work with it, because it's a part of you and there's nothing wrong with it.
Right. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
There's so much I want to talk to you about, but just first, I imagine that it's not helpful when we're speaking with one of our friends or somebody that we meet who has a stutter. It doesn't really help for us to finish their sentences for them. Am I right about that?
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Yes. So, in general, right? Like, we don't want to, even when we're interrupting people in general, it is nice to, just let everyone complete their sentences and get it out. And I know we all struggle with that sometimes. Like, I know I personally struggle sometimes. I'm excited and you want to talk over people sometimes, but I have to really back up and learn to listen, and I think that's important, especially for children and adults who stutter. We really have to give them that wait time and really listen to them.
Yeah, so important. And a great way to show respect.
Oh my gosh, yes, very much so. Right. Yeah. It's all about really respecting them and just letting them, really, they need to be able to get out what they have to say, because what they have to say is very important.
Right. Absolutely. As a parent of a young kid, what are some of the things that we want to be aware of that might be an indication that my child might need some support with speech and language?
Yeah, so I'll first start out by saying, just in general, some things to look out for, especially when your children are little. And again, I don't know any kiddos out there, so I'm just talking in general terms. But when we're really young, when we're, between 0 and 3, there are a lot of language developmental things happening. And the first thing that comes about is that joint attention piece. And what does that mean? That's basically that turn-taking interaction that you have with your child that comes before words. So, looking to make sure that your child and you are both kind of sharing that enjoyment together. So maybe you hold a cup up for your child and say, hey, I have your cup. Your child looks at the cup. Maybe you give your child the cup. They might play with it for a second. You hold your hands out. They give it back to you. That's a really important skill. They have just shown you that they can turn take.
Wow. And
non-verbally, right? So once they start to do that, maybe some little vocalizations start to come out, like when we kind of think of babbling, to kind of get adult, to kind of get the adult's attention and whatnot. And then that kind of goes into understanding receptive language. So you think about object permanence. A child wants something, so you might hide it under a blanket, and they're like, oh, I know that's still there. So they pull the blanket up. All of those type of things too, cause and effect. Hey, if I push this button, is it going to make some noises? So they understanding that cause and effect, and then problem solving. Are they able to reach for a toy that's not in the area? And if so, are you noticing that they're trying to, so you're giving it to them, if it's out of reach, and you're both you're helping your child along. What's happening too is you're talking with your child during all of this, right? Oh, you want that toy? Let me get it for you. So your child is hearing all of this. And what happens over time is then that leads into expressive language. But let me back up, but still within that receptive piece, after the object permanence, cause and effect, and problem solving comes understanding directions. And, oh, no, don't touch that. Like, oh, okay, I can't touch that. Mom says I can't touch it. That's hot. So just being able to follow directions, and this is all receptive again. And then that leads to expressive, which is being able to talk and use words. And remember when we were little, I have a 2-year-old right now, and she's adorable, and she'll talk to me. And sometimes I'm like, she is so cute, and she is telling me everything. I have no idea what she's saying, but sometimes I understand her. And what's happening is she's starting to, she's in that expressive language stage, but soon she'll be in that speech intelligibility stage. As she gets a little bit older here, the time she's reaching between 3 and 5, she's going to start really knowing how to pronounce those sounds really well. And she'll start speaking, and I'm going to be able to understand her. And so you can see those 4 phases, right? You go through joint attention, receptive language, expressive language, and then speech intelligibility. And all of that takes time, but it happens really fast too. So I think things to look for or are really important is that turn taking piece, that joint attention piece, and then a lot of times parents will say, well, I really want my child to talk. Why aren't they talking? And it's like, well, we need to back up because right now you want to be in the expressive language or speech intelligibility phase, but your child is still at that joint attention level. So we have to build those foundational skills to get up there. So I would say kind of for parents, really think about what's happening with your nonverbal interactions with your child. And I think parents will kind of start to know, oh my gosh, if something might be going on here. And if so, I definitely, would say, hey, reach out to a local speech and language therapist or bring it up so that you can get a referral to make sure your child's kind of on that, just on the radar, just right. To make sure that they're meeting their developmental milestones. And, I was going to say something else, but I can't remember. So.
Well, it's really fascinating. And I really love that we're having a chance to kind of get in here and understand all of these different parts of speech and everything that goes into speech, because for me, I had no idea that giving the cup and getting it back from the kid is the first step in communicating. And I don't know if a lot of people kind of understand that. So I'm really thankful that you're sharing that information with us. And I think it makes me, as I'm sitting here, if I had a 2-year-old or, if I'm ever blessed with grandkids, I know that I am going to be more aware of doing those things with that 2 or 3-year-old the next chance I get to hang out with the 2 or 3-year-old, and be more mindful of it.
Yeah, I know. It just kind of builds that awareness. And, from the time babies are born, they're communicating with us. So, it's just important to realize that too. They're learning everything they need to learn between those really early ages.
Yeah. Now, you were telling me before we started recording that you've actually written 3 books that are available on your website. Can you tell us a little bit about those?
Yeah. So, the read alouds are available on my website. So if you go out to simplicityhappens.com, the first 3 top posts will be a read aloud of each book. And then, and then they're available for purchase on Amazon down, if you're ever interested, but the read alouds are completely there for you to enjoy with your child. The first one is Bruno's Ball. It's a speech and language book on positional words. So your child's going to follow, this adorable little puppy around. And while they're doing that, they're going to learn positional words like in, on, next to. And really what's fun about it is it's interactive. So you're asking your child, hey, where is Bruno's ball? And your child's looking for it. They're going to point to the ball. And then you're going to add that dialogue. Oh, you're right. It's in front of the flowers, or it's, under the tree. So you're providing that language for them when they're young and they're still learning and hearing. And then as they get older, they can start to tell you where the ball is on each page and whatnot. So that one's that. The next one is Chloe's Hearts. And it's basically you follow a little cat around as she gives away all of her hearts. So it looks at different colors. So you're learning about colors and kindness. So as she gives her hearts away, she becomes more colorful. And at the end, she's surrounded by all of her new friends, even though her pot of hearts is empty. And then the last one that I just wrote is Hattie's Hive, and it follows the honey making process with the bees in child terms. And what happens is you're just asking your child, hey, point to the first bee, point to the bee in the middle, and point to the last bee. And so your child is interacting with you, and you can kind of work with those speech and language concepts that are embedded within. Mm-hmm. And one more thing I'd like to say is it's really important if you're reading a story with a child to also apply it in your play. So if you are reading Hattie's Hive and you're like, hey, point to the first bee or point to the bee in the middle, after you're done reading the story, it's really important when you're playing with the child, let's say you're playing with cars or something, maybe you are acting like you're going to the gas station or something and you're lining up your cars. Hey, what car is first in line? What car is in the middle? What car is last? So because kids learn best during play, mm-hmm. and they're going to get it faster during play. So I want my books to be like a nice little structure, but then also like take that a little bit further in your play skills with your kiddos, because that's where the really learning the magic happens.
That's so very, very important. And I'm so happy that you gave us a great example of not only the importance of reading with our kids, but how to read with our kids. Because it is to get the most out of reading with our kids, it has to be more than just reading the words. The conversations have to be there. And I'm happy that you shared with the after play, once we read the story, whether it's a beginning book like your 3 books, or as we're reading, as our kids are getting older, it's continue to have those conversations about the values we talked about in the book with our kids afterwards, and when we're out in real life, and applying those things and reminding our kids of what we had read about, what we had talked about.
Yeah, it's really about building those communicative connections with your little ones, and establishing that dialogue. That's why I love reading in general, because kids, like, their imagination just lights up and you get to talk with them about things, and they will point out things in the book that you're like, oh my gosh, I didn't even see that. Let's talk about this a little bit more. The talking part is the important part, talking with your children, giving them that time. That's why it's so important to read every day, and to do all of that. So I love the reading. And can I mention one more thing?
You mentioned 8 things.
Okay. I wanted to say too, if parents are really, there is an amazing, actually all the stuff I've learned about speech and language development in young kids is by the speech and language therapy guru, who I think, her name's Laura Mize, and she has a great website called teachmetotalk.com. And I have recently started working with little ones, ages 0 through 3, and all of her stuff has really started to solidify more for me, but I'm still learning a lot. And she is so helpful for both parents and us speech and language therapists. So I want to give a shout out to her, because I feel like I've learned so much from her, and some of the stuff that I said earlier about the speech and language development is really from her. So I definitely say, if you really want someone to really help with that aspect, go out to her website at teachmetotalk.com. I'm just putting a plug in for her. She didn't tell me to do that. I don't even know her. I just listened to her, and I think she's great. So.
Well, we should talk a little bit more about what you mentioned, that there's a lot of resources on your website available for free. Mm-hmm. Can you just let us know about some of those?
Yeah. So I have there. If you go out to the CDC website too, you can research child development milestones. And so what I did was I kind of used some of those to create my busy book activities. So what you can do if you're a parent or an educator is you can go out to my website. If you subscribe, I give you a little password. You plug that password in and you're going to get access to a bunch of activities. And then each month I send along more activities because I can't stop creating stuff because that's what I love to do. But so basically you can print those out. You could laminate them for long-term use. But so, for example, one of the activities is a pond activity. And you basically put there's a little frog and a fish and a butterfly. So, you can start out by, your child can place the frog on the log or under the flowers or whatever it is in the activity that you want to do. So a lot of it is, hey, print this out. Here are some nice little things you can do, but also have fun with it yourself. So there's a pond activity. There's a plural one. So you're going to put a bunny next to another bunny and you're going to say, here's one bunny. Here's two bunnies, because you're talking about more than one and learning that concept too. And then there's some with high frequency vocabulary words with matching. So you can, do a lot of picture matching too. Actually, every activity is picture matching, where you can place the one picture over the other picture, because that's a skill that we also learn when we're learning language. Mm-hmm. So, and then there's some following directions activities for older students. So you can put a little bunny together. You can cut that out and cut and glue. So, and then I have a couple YouTube videos that pair with some of them. So there's tons of stuff out there. If you're looking for resources or activities, please go out. It's my gift to the world. I love it. And, again, it's my gift. So enjoy.
Well, that is really wonderful. It is a wonderful gift to give to families. And I thank you for that. And I thank you for being on the podcast. I think we've learned a ton. And I think we still have a lot more to learn, but we'll save that for hopefully another visit from you in the not too distant future.
I love it. I really enjoyed talking with you today, Chudley. This has been amazing.
We've had a great time speaking with the driving force behind SimplicityHappens.com, Steph Winkler. Hey, Steph, thanks for being with us.
Oh, thanks. Oh, you're so welcome. I appreciate I just appreciated talking with you. It's been a wonderful opportunity.
Please be sure to join us for the next episode of the Reading with Your Kids podcast. Our guest will be Sue Atkins. Sue is a parenting expert who is heard on the BBC regularly, and she's also part of Disney. She has some great insights into how we can give our kids the gift of confidence and self-esteem. That's the next episode of the podcast. Hey, please be sure to visit readingwithyourkids.com. Sign up for our free newsletter. And I forgot to mention at the top of the show, there's a contact button at the top of the page. That's a great way to send us a message. You can let us know what we're doing well here in the podcast. You can let us know what we could be doing better. You can also let us know who you would like to hear on a future episode of the podcast. We love reaching out to authors that our guests introduce us to. We would love to know who you would like to hear on the show. Please use that contact button at readingwithyourkids.com. I want to thank the folks who made today's show so wonderful. Of course, we're going to start by thanking our guest, Steph Winkler. Please be sure to check out her website, SimplicityHappens.com. Also want to thank my team, Fatima Khan, Rory Grady, Nicole Bell Castro, Mirabella Q, Rain Penn. I want to thank my beautiful wife for all the support she gives me. Most of all, we all want to thank you. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us today. And as always, thank you so very much for taking the time to make the world a better place by reading with your kids. I'll be looking for you in the next edition of the Reading with Your Kids podcast.